What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with a record spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all of the records that I acquired within the month of September this year in 2021. I am not going to chit-chat too much in the beginning of this video because we have a lot to get through in this haul. We have the new Iron Maiden album, Senjutsu, the Ozzy Osbourne No More Tears reissue, a rare David Bowie compilation, as well as another installment in the Brown Acid series. We have a lot to get through in this video, so enough of the chit-chat. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Alright guys, we are going to be kicking this haul off into some Fab 4 territory. This is a record that I managed to get from my record store, and when I saw that it was available, it got me thinking that I already have Volume 2 of this particular show in my collection already, so if I was to get my hands on this, it would basically round things up. And the record that I am talking about is this right here. This is the Beatles, A Taste of Honey, live at the Star Club in Hamburg, 1962. The recordings of the Beatles in Hamburg in 62 are rather well documented. There was a release that came out sometime in the late 70s of these recordings. It wasn't really official, but it kind of was. It wasn't sanctioned by the band or EMI, but they were out there, and a label called Wax Love Records, which is kind of one of these, I don't know if you can say public domain, just legal bootleg type labels. They put out some releases that consist of the Hamburg recordings, and I figured I would get my hands on them. And with these releases, you get a lot of, cover tunes and a lot of, early standards in the early Beatles catalog. So we have things such as Roll Over Beethoven, Hippie Hippie Shake, Lend Me Your Comb, Mr. Moonlight, Taste of Honey, Besame Mucho, Till There Was You. Just a lot of great covers. So if you're familiar with, first album all the way up until Beatles for Sale, you can definitely pick up on where a lot of these tracks kind of come from. But very excited to have this. As you can see, the front has a photo of the band with Pete Best, and we have some liner notes here on the back as well as the track list. And the record itself does come with this interesting custom center label, which is quite nice. And yeah, definitely excited to dig into some more early Beatles live recordings with A Taste of Honey, live at the Star Club in Hamburg, 1962. Alright guys, so here's a record that I picked up at the record store that I manage. I've had my eye on this for a little while. If you are a Van Halen aficionado, then you all know about this particular record and exactly what entails with it. And that is this right here. This is the 1978 Looney Tunes promo pressing. Now, this came out around January 1978, a couple months before the release of the first album. And this promo release has 5 tracks, which in all honesty are rather kind of key cuts off of the record. Running with the Devil, Eruption, Ice Cream Man, You Really Got Me, and Jamie's Crying. And what makes it called the Looney Tunes promo release, which that's not really the classified name, but it has this rather distinguished center label there with the Looney Tunes design, which is good fun. And obviously this is quite a recognizable release down to just the presentation, how the band's name is written out with the font and everything. And this does come with a nice die-cut sleeve. I should mention this is an unofficial pressing. Original copies of this go for $150 on average minimum on Discogs. But needless to say, I was very happy to find this unofficial version to add to the collection. And for the sake of showing it off, this does come pressed on sort of marbled red vinyl. And I'll showcase the labels as well, which is very nice to have. So just a nice little interesting bit of Van Halen history to own in my collection, that being the 1978 Looney Tunes promo pressing. Alright guys, so here's a record that I ordered from Discogs from a record store called Resurrection Records based out in Washington. I have been seeing this pop up between Discogs and eBay, and copies kind of disappear quick, and I really wanted to get my hands on this while I was able to when it was still relatively available, because once these things kind of sell out after a couple months, they just kind of disappear for good. And just given the nature of these kind of releases, I try to jump on them on impulse. And the record that I'm talking about is this right here. Led Zeppelin, Orlando Madness, live at the Civic Auditorium in Orlando, Florida, August 31st, 1971. This is one of those legal bootleg type releases. This was put out by Mind Control Records, limited to 500 copies. I think I have some other titles that are on that label. Soundboard recording, sounds relatively good. A couple months before the release of Led Zeppelin 4. Has Immigrant Song, Heartbreaker, Since I've Been Loving You. If you're basically a fan of, How the West Was Won, then this is kind of a nice sort of complement to that, since it's kind of roughly from the same period. And of course, in terms of like the acoustic stuff, there's That's the Way, Going to California. There was also a cool cover version of The Kinks' You Really Got Me, as well as the song Celebration Day, which, to my knowledge, the live version that I am used to hearing is the one on The Song Remains the Same. So it's cool to hear like a pre-73 version of it. But very, very cool cover. Got some nice photos on the back. 2 LP set, standard black vinyl with a nice kind of basic but cool custom center label there. So very excited to have this in the collection and give this a spin on the turntable and expand my Led Zeppelin live vinyl collection with Orlando Madness. All right, guys, so here are some records that I snagged at my record store. This record here, I basically ordered heavy up because I knew that myself, along with my coworkers, Patrick and Joe, would want to get copies of it because we are huge Ramones fans. And needless to say, we all basically left with copies. And it is this right here. This is a legal bootleg. Ramones live in Buffalo, February 8th, 1979. This was right after they had done the Rock and Roll High School film. So it basically features that song along with other tracks from the first album all the way up until Road to Ruin. Radio broadcast recording, relatively good sounding. It's what you come to expect with, any other, radio broadcast. It's, a bit compressed in places, but overall the mix is very punchy. The crowd is very energetic and the band is on fire. Absolute great release. Great track list as well. I mean, if you're a fan of the It's Alive album, then you'll basically like this because it's most of that. But then we have some things such as I Don't Want You, Want to Be Sedated, I'm Against It from, Road to Ruin and such. But solid release. And what's cool about this pressing, and I did not know this until I opened it up, is that it comes pressed on blue vinyl, and this is on the DOL label. They put out a lot of various kind of radio broadcasts and such, so very happy to get my hands on this. And then this record was actually brought in by a customer for a trade-in, and I figured I could add it to my collection, and that is Janis Joplin's Greatest Hits, rather infamous compilation which brings together songs from when she was with Big Brother and the Holding Company, as well as her solo stuff. I've been wanting to kind of get this for the collection, as well as get some of the Big Brother stuff on vinyl, but I figured I can kind of get a wide scope of the Joplin legacy with this compilation. It does come pressed on standard black vinyl, red Columbia label there, which looks very nice, and definitely excited to give this one a spin on the old turntable. Janis Joplin's Greatest Hits. All right, so here's some stuff that I got at the record store with a gift card that my parents gave me for my 24th birthday. I kind of more or less bought these for the store with the intention that I would get them at some point later on. But lately, I have been listening to this band a lot. And it's funny because I recently filmed a video that involves this band. It'll go up at some point in the future. But my coworker actually brought in the one album that they are perhaps most well known for, and we were listening to it. And I have a copy myself in my collection, and since I've been kind of in that spirit, I said to myself, I ought to pick this album out at some point. And the album that I am talking about is by Coven, Blood on the Snow. This is their third album, which came out back in 1974. Basically, Coven's biggest claim to fame was the Witchcraft album, which came out in 69, which more or less predates Black Sabbath in regards to using occultism in rock music. First people to use the Sign of the Horns and just, you know, a whole bunch of other stuff. Crazy backstory. But this right here is their third album. This does not feature One Tin Soldier on it. They kind of go back to some of the more kind of horror-core type imagery with this particular album. Obviously, as you can tell by the cover, I do love the artwork, I do have to say. Nice, colorful gatefold with the credits on this side, and we have some band photographs there. And this was put out by a label called Real Gone Music. They did a reissue of this a couple years back. This is the first time that it has been reissued on vinyl since its original release back in '74. And this pressing comes pressed on pumpkin orange vinyl, as it is described, which is pretty awesome. And this pressing is limited to 300 copies. That is right, 300 copies. So quite limited indeed, and very happy to have it in the collection. And I also picked up this 7-inch by Cigarettes After Sex, a relatively new band that I am absolutely in love with. This 7-inch is rather interesting because it has their song Affection as the A-side, but the B-side is a cover of REO Speedwagon's Keep On Loving You, which is a very interesting take on the tune, and very happy to have this in the collection. Overall, very satisfied with what I picked up with my post-birthday gift card findings. Alright guys, here is a new release that I have been anxiously awaiting to get my hands on a copy of. I did order copies of this album for my record store, and we never got them. And supposedly, according to my boss, it is because Walmart, sneaky people they are, scooped up all of the copies from the various distributors that are out there for record stores to buy from when it comes to new product. So we ended up kind of missing out on the release day hype for vinyl. We did get the CD copies in at least, but for vinyl, we are a few weeks late into the game. But better late than never. If you are wondering what I am talking about, it is the newest album from Iron Maiden. It is called Senjutsu. This is their 17th studio album, and I gotta say, Iron Maiden is now basically a progressive metal band at this point, because this kind of follows the same kind of treatment that the Book of Souls album got back in 2015, which was their last studio album, spread over 2 CDs or 3 LPs, jam-packed with all kinds of epic tracks on here. The first single, which was Writing on the Wall, was very enjoyable and had a great music video as well. And I am definitely excited to be giving this album a spin. It is going to be quite a marathon since this is 3 LPs, but Maiden is a band that has been relatively consistent, and also, like I said, they've become more progressive, I would say. So they're really honing in on their kind of progressive influences, lots of storytelling in the songs, and of course the instrumental passages are always fantastic. The band is on point, and they just get better with age. So good stuff here. Very nice artwork. And it has a triple gatefold opening, which is very cool. Looks quite sharp. And I'll just take out one of the printed inners so you can kind of get a gist of what they look like. It features some artwork with lyrics. And we have various illustrations of Eddie right there. And speaking of Walmart, I kind of caved in because I am a sucker for collectible variants. This is the Walmart exclusive pressing. This comes on red translucent vinyl with black smoke. You can kind of see the blackness there. But very nice, solid pressing. This was also mastered by Chris Bellman, so I'm sure this is going to be an absolutely great sounding pressing of the new Maiden studio efforts. And yeah, definitely very excited to see how this sounds. Everyone has been acclaiming it, and so far it is their highest charting album in the States, so that's saying something. But needless to say, cannot wait to give it a spin. Iron Maiden, Senjutsu. All right, guys, so here are some other records that I picked up at the store. These I mainly got because today I worked a open to close double shift, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. I felt that I could use some records to kind of get me by for the day, make the day a little bit more rewarding. And I decided to snag a couple of records that I had in my stash. And these are records that one of my coworkers had brought in for store credit. And what's great about these albums is that they are two albums that I never really have listened to, but I really wanted to check out and dig deeper into. And considering that I was able to get these records for relatively cheap prices, I figured these would be great price points to delve into albums that I never have listened to. But the first record I'm going to show you, I already do have an album by this particular artist, perhaps their most notable one, and this is like the second most notable record in their discography, and that is T-Rex, The Slider. Now, I already have Electric Warrior, and this was the next one that I really wanted to check out. This right here is a 2 LP deluxe version, which features the main album on 1 LP, and then there is a second LP of an alternative version of the album, different takes and variations of the tracks. Kind of a daunting move to snag a deluxe version of an album that I personally have never listened to, but I'm being quite ambitious, but very excited to dig into this album. Gatefold opens up just like this, and you have a great picture of Mark Bolan there. And I'll just showcase one of the printed inners just so you can kind of get an idea on what it looks like. We have lyrics and credits. And then I also really dig the custom label right there, which features Mark on the label. And I'll also show the printed inner sleeve for the second LP, which kind of has a cool kind of look to it, kind of like a psychedelicized version of the album cover. And it says Rabbit Fighter, the alternate slider. And then it kind of breaks down the track list for everything, so you can see the differences there. And this other record is something a bit left field for me. I may have mentioned in a couple of videos in the past, as well as some vinyl hauls, as well as my youngest members of the VC Take Nashville documentary, that I was really digging into the reissues that Third Man Records did of the French pop singer France Gall from the 1960s. And I really wanted to dig deeper into that kind of 1960s French pop world. And aside from France Gall, there is another notable female that stands out in my mind, just in terms of kind of name recognition. And when I saw that my coworker had brought this in, I figured, all right, perfect timing. I should give this album a shot. And that is Francoise Hardy. This is her self-titled album here, and definitely excited to give this a spin. Perhaps I should brush up on some French so I can really understand the lyrics, but honestly, musically, it really catches my ear, but it is all good stuff, and this comes on the DOL label. DOL is like an unofficial pirated type of label. They do a couple of legal bootlegs. They get titles that are kind of public domain, kind of, since this has been out for a while, and they do these kind of pressings. I've seen it happen with like Miles Davis records and such, but needless to say, for a couple bucks, definitely worth exploring. All right, guys, so here is a new release / reissue that just came out fairly recently, and this is one that has been highly anticipated because this album has never been given the vinyl reissue treatment. This was available as part of a very expensive colored vinyl box set that came out a couple years back, but they decided to release it separately to coincide with the album's 30th anniversary, so we're going back to 1991, and I think it is absolutely fair that this album is given a kind of breakout separate release because this is perhaps one of his greatest records ever. I am talking about the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne, No More Tears. I am so glad that they reissued this. I know a lot of fans have been asking for it. Original pressings from 91 go for crazy money, and it's awesome that they put this out on the market. Has a bunch of hits on it. You have I Don't Want to Change the World, Mama, I'm Coming Home, the title track, Road to Nowhere, and then there's some other cool tracks on here such as Mr. Tinker Train and Hellraiser. Very glad that they decided to reissue this album for its 30th anniversary. Nice gatefold sleeve, which features some photos taken from the No More Tears music video shoot. This comes pressed on 2 LPs. And it comes on this sort of standard Epic label there. And I'm going to take a wild guess and say that they went ahead and took the metal parts from that box set that I was telling you guys about and pressed this up. Now, are there plans to separately release the albums individually? Not quite sure, because aside from No More Tears here, the only older Ozzy albums that have been reissued are Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. I would love to see The Ultimate Sin, Bark at the Moon, and all those other albums, Osmosis even. Who's to say what they'll do in the future? But until then, very happy to have this reissue of No More Tears. And here is something else left field for me. When I show this on camera, you're probably going to shake your head, but I will say my ears have perked up when it came to listening to this notable album that came out this year. The vinyl pressing came out roughly a couple weeks ago. It was released on CD and digitally first. This particular artist has been kind of making the rounds. One of her songs was trending on TikTok, and that's kind of how she got her fame, you know, her career kind of started. And I've listened to other bits and pieces of the record, and I gotta say, it is something that I could definitely enjoy. It is not 100% in the pop vein. There's bits of pop punk, alternative pop, indie pop. You know, there's an overall cool aesthetic to this album, and I want to give a big shout out to my friend Chelsea, aka the Record Spinneret, for supplying me with an extra copy of this, because she ordered it off of her web store. She ended up getting an extra copy, and she said, "Do you want it?" And I said, "Sure." Olivia Rodrigo, Sour. This is her first album here. And I gotta say, right off the bat, Driver's License is the song that I was talking about that was big on TikTok. Deja Vu is good fun. The opening track, Brutal, is absolutely awesome. Vocal-wise, I kind of get some Hayley Williams Paramore vibes from it, so I can really appreciate that. But honestly, the whole record itself is rather solid, and I am excited to give this a spin on the turntable. Perhaps I'll listen to it with Chelsea next time she's over. But here is the artwork. Pretty cool gatefold sleeve. And upon doing some research, because, you know, I like getting my hands on cool variants, little did I know that since Chelsea got it from the web store, that it comes pressed on sort of purplish tinged clear vinyl. It's very, very vague, but this is exclusive to the web store, so it does indeed exist as a rather unique variant, which is good fun, and definitely quite excited to have this album in the collection and dig a bit deeper into the phenomenon that is Olivia Rodrigo with her first album, Sour. Alright guys, so here is a new album release. This came all the way from England. I have been anticipating this, and I am very excited to check it out. It is the newest studio album from Genesis guitarist Steve Hackett. Steve Hackett tends to churn out solo albums quite often. I think out of all of the Genesis members in terms of recent years, he has been the most prolific. And this album is called Surrender of Silence. And I remember when I had the chance to interview Steve some time ago, which was right around the time that his acoustic album came out, Under a Mediterranean Sky. He said that he was working on a rock album, and this is the album that he was talking about, and it is finally here. I am a big fan of Steve Hackett's recent solo works. I take it this will be in the same vein as everything else, and if that is the case, lots of interesting instrumentation, lots of different takes on different kind of cultural type music. He tends to tap into all that stuff quite frequently with his solo work, and I am just very excited to check it out. And since it is a pre-order from his web store, it is indeed signed by him. Does come in a nice gatefold sleeve, which features photographs of everyone that appears on the record. And right off the bat, Phil Ehart from Kansas appears, and of course Nan Sylvan, who sings with Steve live, appears on this, as well as Durga McBroom, who sang with Pink Floyd as a backup vocalist. Let's see who else. Rob Townsend, of course, appears on this. Amanda Lehman, Roger King, he also produced this as well. So basically more or less same kind of cast of characters appear on this record. And what is cool about this vinyl pressing, which is exclusive to the Hackett Songs website, is that it comes pressed on this kind of nebula kind of colored vinyl, which is very cool. So basically it's like translucent red inside, but we have this opaque black on the outside, which kind of gives this cool kind of effect, which is very, very stunning. I love the way that is done. A very unique way to manufacture colored vinyl at this point. And also, there is a nice book, which features illustrations as well as all the lyrics. That way you can sift through this as you listen to the record. And this is a double LP set, but the album takes up 3 sides of vinyl. So here is the 3rd side. But what is cool is we have an etching of a guitar on the 4th side, which is very nice indeed. And definitely very excited to give this album a spin on the turntable. Steve Hackett, Surrender to Silence. All right, guys, so this right here is a haul within a haul itself. These are all records that I picked up at my record store that I manage, and this is mainly because YouTube had dropped me a check for all of the ad revenue that has generated these past couple of months, because it's thanks to you guys that watch my videos and watch the ads that occur before and after my videos that YouTube gives me, you know, a little bit of kickback, and every couple of months they cut me some checks, and I basically take those checks to buy records to fulfill the collection and also showcase on the channel. And I decided to dip into my personal stash at work and kind of relieve some space and bring home some records that I've been meaning to bring home for some time, and came home with some fantastic stuff. And the first record I'm going to show you guys is one that's actually been on my radar for, I would say, about a month. And there's a quite funny story about how I first encountered this and how I ended up coming across it at my job. And that is Changes Bowie. Now, this right here is a compilation that came out back in 1990. This was when Rodrigo had licensed the Bowie catalog. They remastered it on CD and vinyl. They included bonus tracks. Those were all the hype back then. And they also did this new compilation, which kind of more or less supersedes Changes 1 Bowie, because it features, you know, stuff after Station to Station. And it basically cuts off at 1984's Tonight album. Honestly, a really solid compilation, you know, from, you know, the early portion of Bowie's career. And I first encountered this at my aunt and uncle's house. I was over there recently, and I was going through their small record collection, and they had a copy of this, and it was in beautiful shape. But I kind of felt weird about, you know, making an offer on it if, you know, they were willing to part ways with it, or if they wanted to give it to me at some point. Not quite sure, and I kind of forgot about it. And then I was going through some boxes at work, and I stumbled across a copy. And honestly, this thing is in perfect condition. I mean, a little bit of creasing on the top, on the back, but that's really nothing to go crazy about. This is an all-around beautiful, very good plus near mint copy. Love the gatefold here. And what's cool about it is that both of the LPs, while they do come stored in nice anti-static rice paper sleeves, is that they come pressed on clear vinyl, and this looks like it may have never been played. Like, this is an all-around beautiful copy. So I am very happy to get my hands on this rather unique David Bowie compilation on vinyl, Changes Bowie. And speaking of compilations, gotta supply myself with some brown acid. I just recently picked up the first trip last month, and here is the second trip. And this is basically a large gap, because I think I have trip 1, and then it jumps to like trip 7. So I have a lot of ground to cover in the middle. So this right here is the second one. Riding Easy Records puts out these compilations of just a bunch of underground, proto-metal, hard rock, psych rock stuff from the 60s and 70s. All of it is super obscure. You never hear about it. It's like little small local, you know, released 7 inches and albums, and just, you know, some of them are quite valuable, and they make it a point to put out these compilations to shine a light on that stuff. And these are absolutely fun to listen to, and also just a great way to hear just new stuff that you just never are aware of. And what's great about this is that it comes pressed on this sort of, I guess you could say, kind of speckled green vinyl here. So it overall has a green hue with like bits of purple and yellow. It is very, very beautiful. So happy to get my hands on some more Brown Acid. And these next two records are actually ones that my coworker Joe plays a lot in the store. And that's the great thing about working in the record store, is that, you know, I'm able to kind of feed off of, you know, what everyone else plays in the store. And if it catches my ears, it's something that I definitely want to dig into. I've caught myself doing that a lot lately since I've been working at the store since May. And this right here is actually a band that I don't have any records of. I am aware of some of the notable ones that have come out in the past, but I decided to go for their latest album, which really caught my ears. And there's also another story behind this as well. And that is The Strokes, The New Abnormal. This is their latest album, which came out back in, I want to say, between the last year or two. I'm kind of bad with the timeline, but it's interesting how I first encountered this record, because when I was on a camping trip in Yosemite back in late May, I was standing in line at the cafe for my morning coffee, and I heard this song playing, and I kind of Shazammed it to see what it was, and it was the track Ode to the Mets, which is the closing track on this record, and immediately my brain just clicked in with it. It was such an ear-catching song, and I immediately adored it. And then I come back to work, and my coworker Joe is playing this in the store, and I'm just like, that's the record. So super stoked to have this. And the packaging on this is quite interesting. So it kind of comes in this like kind of plastic sleeve, and you take out everything just like this. So you can kind of see it there. And then, of course, features the main cover insert. You also get a download card and a giant fold-out poster. Has a cool kind of silhouette shot of the band there, which is pretty cool. And we even have a big blow-up of the album artwork, which is super nice. And just for the sake of showcasing the vinyl, it is on the RCA label. They kind of reproduced that old school label, kind of in reverse, so it's like black and the RCA text is in orange, which is a nice touch. So pretty cool to have this. And now I got to hunt down the other Strokes albums, because I am a completist. But needless to say, very happy to have that. And the next one is another pick that my coworker Joe played often in the store, and that is a band called Of Montreal, Satanic Panic in the Attic. Very much in the kind of psychedelic pop type of vein. Really dug the vibe of this record, and I'm excited to listen to it much, much more. I mean, right off the bat, you know, how could you hate the artwork? That is just some really awesome, trippy, psychedelic stuff here. And of course, there's also an insert inside, which I will show, as well as a download card, which is very cool. But wait until you see the vinyl. This is absolutely gorgeous. Check this out. This comes pressed on kind of mixed orange and black colored vinyl. Creates a cool kind of almost galaxy marble type effect. It is so, so sick. So very happy to have my hands on this rather beautiful pressing of a rather solid album. And then we get back into classic territory. This, I remember I ordered this for the store like when I first started, and I've been meaning to get it. It was a little pricey, but I decided to pull the trigger on it finally. It is a legal bootleg from, yes, this is called In the Beginning. This brings together various BBC radio and TV appearances in audio form together from 1968 to 69. So this is focusing on the sort of first two albums, their self-titled debut and Time in a Word. So you have things such as Beyond and Before, Survival, Sweetness, and of course you have things such as their rendition of Something's Coming. What else is on here? Dear Father, which is a B-side from the Time in a Word era. Just a really solid kind of capsule into the early Yes days, and it is really solid. This is also numbered as well. Copy number 1390. Nice gatefold sleeve with some liner notes, and there's even an insert as well, which looks pretty cool. Talks about the contents featured inside. And this comes pressed on orange vinyl, and there's also a nice picture label here as well, which is very cool. So very happy to have this as well. And the last thing I'll show in this clip is a total blind listen. When I saw that this was available to order, I immediately jumped on it. Never heard a single lick of this album before, but I wanted to get it due to all of the King Crimson connections. And that is the album by their former primary lyricist, Peter Sinfield, and the album is called Still. And honestly, this is almost like a reunion album of sorts because, of course, you know, Peter Sinfield wrote the lyrics for the first four Crimson records, as well as he did all, you know, the light show and the sound and everything. But on this record, you have Mel Collins, you also have Greg Lake, Keith Tippett, John Wetton, Boz Burrell, Ian Wallace. So almost all of like the Islands lineup is on this, as well as, you know, Greg from In the Court and Poseidon, Keith Tippett, who appears kind of sporadically across some of those early records. It is really, really cool. And John Wetton as well, who was in the band around the time of Lark's Tongues up until Red. So pretty cool stuff. And this is a die-cut gatefold as well, and you can take out this art piece, and you can see it in the window there, which is pretty cool. Gatefold sleeve with the lyrics, and this pressing comes pressed on pink vinyl. Matches the album artwork quite nicely, very nice and pastel-like. And honestly, guys, between everything else I got this month and my birthday haul and everything that I got today, I have a lot of listening to do, and I gotta find the time to do it. I think I'll manage. Okay, so I forgot to mention at the end of that last clip that you just saw that I also did get my hands on a 7-inch, and that is Courtney Barnett's Nameless Faceless. This is a single-sided promo 7-inch that I was actually able to get in at the store fairly recently, and I wanted to add it to my collection simply because I am a huge Courtney Barnett fan, and I also just wanted to have this pretty cool collectible promo 7-inch, so I was very happy to get my hands on that. And that right there is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of September this year in 2021. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead, give this video a like, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support this channel, be sure to check me out on Patreon. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.